Sup, Gloomers? So, I have determined the deadliest thing in Frosthaven. The deadliest thing in Frosthaven. I have been cruising through Board Game Geek and Reddit, unfortunately, and I have looked through all the comments, not all of them, some of them are pretty weird. There's so much about people talking about, hey, my win rate's different in this, or like, hey, this scenario sucks, so on and so forth. So what is it? Is it scenario design? Are those piranha pigs really as bad as they sound? I mean, piranha pigs do sound pretty deadly, right? They're piranha pig. So what is it? Are they piranha pigs? Is it another monster? Is it scenario design? Is it Marcel Sartachka? Probably, but it's not that. It's the doors. No, not the doors. Doors. Opening doors. So let's talk about that. Hey, if you want more Frosthaven content, be sure to like, subscribe, do all sorts of stuff. If you really want to support us, it does help. But also join our Patreon. We have all sorts of exclusive updates and early access to videos. So do that right now. Do it. Please join Patreon. So a bit of a bait and switch there. You're expecting some enemy or some scenario. I know, the deadliest thing in Gloomhaven was 72. Everyone knows, 72. It's burned into our heads. Or some people say, no, it's not that. It's the Black Barrow, scenario 1. Honestly, possibly. That's one's just, scenario 1 of Gloomhaven is just, did you know Gloomhaven? How well do you know it? And how well does it take to adjust? It'll kick you in the face. The scenario itself is not hard. But learning Gloomhaven is. That's all it is. The scenario is not hard. Learning Gloomhaven is. We can't even attribute it to that. 72, even for Gloomhaven veterans, have kicked some of them in the face. Figuratively. So, where are we? We are kicking the door. Why am I talking about doors? Why are we talking about doors? We're talking about doors because I feel, first off, the Frosthaven scenario design around doors is especially interesting because we have the section book now. We have the section book where suddenly you can flip a page and be like, okay, here's the scenario, but wait, there's more. Now, of course, you can realize, hey, this is a door, there's going to be enemies behind it. That's just going to be a thing that happens. But people are just so ill-prepared for these. I've watched a few playthroughs on some channels on YouTube. I've seen a couple people share comments on this, and I even watched one at my local board game cafe of them going through, this wasn't Frosthaven, but Gloomhaven, and I've determined that people just really don't know what I've on a lot of our playtesting servers has been referred to as breaching. So is that hard? And the answer is yes. But I think the biggest difference that makes it like, is this specific to Gloomhaven or Frosthaven? Like, this is just a generic Gloomhaven thing. Wrong. A lot of the tools that you could use for breaching in Gloomhaven are not here in Frosthaven as well. And I think that's something that some people would like figured out. They're like, aha, I have an invisibility cloak. The biggest thing for breaching in Gloomhaven that was a big cheese was, first off, the Mind Thief. Or really just anyone with invisibility. Just go in there, go invisible, and then do whatever it is. It doesn't even matter at that point. But then next turn, go late, hit them, or even like long rest in the room, like, hey, door's open, and then just do it that way. That was an easy way to get through it. However, some people would move in and then try to figure out what to do. Or they're like, I've got a big attack loaded up. And, you know, loading up a big attack is fine. I feel like it's a skill that people need to relearn. First off, breaching becomes way easier towards the end of Gloomhaven as you kind of start to get incredibly powerful characters. You can just run in the door and start murdering everything, and you'll live. You're going to survive it. It's not that bad. But Frosthaven, there's scenarios where it's like, congratulations, there's now this obstacle. It has health, and the enemies are murdering it. What do you do? Like, if you let that thing die, you die. And you can't just go, I'm just going to go in here and go invisible. First off, there's less classes that go invisible. There's no invisibility cloaks. So, like, 1 and 2. And thirdly, you can't do that. You have to start doing damage now. So, being not prepared for what's on the other side. Now, you can't just always prepare for, hey, Marcel designed the scenario and wants you to lose. That's hard to prepare for. But honestly, that's kind of fun. Because I'm a masochist. So you can't be prepared for 100% of doors. And you know what? That's fine. Like, seriously, one of the scenarios, I think it was 65, I think that might be what I'm talking about, caught me completely by surprise towards the end. One of the doors was like, oh, no, we have to nope, that's not going to work. That is not going to work. And that's okay. One door being different isn't going to kill you. I mean, it didn't kill us, but like, it might kill someone. But more importantly, what are generic things I can do? And I think one of the biggest things is mobility. When you open the door, draw the monster cards and see how far you can move. If the last thing you can do is, well, I can mend on the door and then open it. If you can't move, you're subjecting yourself entirely to the will of the monsters. You're like, oh, it's going to be a big tile or something. I don't know. If you're like, or even if you don't even know what it is, it's just, it's whatever, I'll end on the door. If you don't have some sort of answer, like what if you could just take 1 hex of movement back? That's all. 1 hex of movement back. And then suddenly it gets better. If you don't just allow yourself movement, then you'll potentially risk being completely wrecked. That's just a fact. And this is something I've noticed through teaching people Frosthaven at booths at conventions and teaching new people how to play at my local board game cafe, including my new group. Yay, they're great. But just like, I'll end on the door. Like, are you sure? Like, what if they draw X, Y, or Z? Like, what? I don't know. And the biggest thing is the I don't know. That's what kills you. The I don't know. I don't know what that voice is. Please forgive me. But like, you can't like know what they're gonna draw, and that's the thing. But if you're like, hey, I'm gonna end near here. I'm gonna long rest, and let's do that. And also resting, timing rests is another thing. But allow yourself some movement. Move in. And be able to say, all right, I'm going to be able to run in there because they're not drawing attacks. I'm going to try to kill this guy before he does some nasty thing. Or, hey, I'm going to move back, so they're going to have to funnel through that door, and then we can fight them in an easier fashion. If you allow yourself more movement, bring those bigger movement cards, or like use those boots to allow yourself to have movement before and after opening the door. Coordinated long rests. If you're like, hey, I'm going to open the door. Oh, crap, this room's rough. And then 2 people are like, hey, we need a long rest. Why were you opening the door when 2 of your allies needed to rest? And then that's going to backfire. Now, if it's like, hey, if you're pretty sure that that's something that's not going to be a big deal, why not just long rest as unison? Timing your rests can actually make doors easier. If you don't have staggered rests while going through a door, that can mean that there's less dead turns for you not to be playing cards to debilitate or kill enemies in that room. And I feel like that one doesn't get talked a lot about. I feel like people haven't talked about staggered rests. And first off, group rests and staggered rests is not bad. But if all the enemies are dead and you're about to kick open a door, a group rest is an incredibly good idea. And we're not talking short rest, we're talking about a long rest. To do a long rest, get your items back, get that heal too, and then kick open the door. But also, staggered rest is a good mechanic because sometimes if you're in a room and you've got like 4 people and you're like, hey, 2 people need a long rest because we're out of cards. If you're only fighting, there's a whole room and you're down half people, that's not good. But having 1 person tap out for a round is not a bad thing. That's a thing that you can use to your advantage. Like, use it to where you're not kind of paralyzing everyone, or try to coordinate that. And I've actually taken early rests just to be able to have a full hand for kicking open a door, because I know, especially once you start to up the difficulty, or for certain monsters, some places are just going to be like, oh man, I can't rest now. Well, why didn't you rest before you got here? It really reminds me of the like, hey, all right, let's go on this trip. It's going to be 3 hours. And then like 30 minutes in, it's like, I need to use the bathroom. Like, why didn't you long rest before we got, it's the same thing. Like, come on, communicate. Let us know. If you need to go. Don't go on the dungeon floor though. That's just weird, dude. But I feel like that level of control of being able to coordinate rests helps a lot. Secondly, there are perks and other items that can help design with it. Boots can help you really do that. But also, take a look at that Banner Spear perk. +3. Remember how I was saying you need enough mobility? The Banner Spear is one of the best breachers in the whole game. So that's a couple ways. But also, keep in mind, there are other abilities that are just universally good openers. Now, again, we're not patching 100%, but we're going to go for like 90%. Any non-lost disarms are incredibly good for opening a door with. Got invisibility 90% of the time. Opening the door with a movement bottom, invisibility top is almost guaranteed to be a fantastic idea. Also, tops that give you shield, especially like something like shield 2, or if you have the ability to stack shields, or like move shield 1, top shield 1, those are really good things. Like, let's be real here. If you're like, hey, I'm a drifter trying to kick open this door, if you use the bottom of Shockwave and the top of Prudent Preparation, you can effectively get shield 2 for the turn and retaliate 1, which you may or may not be able to use. So I'm not saying retaliate, but shield 2 for the turn gets 3 movement, so you might be able to at least position yourself to not take as much damage. And at the very least, mitigate the incoming assault. That's good. If you have, like I said, disarms, stuns, you probably don't have stuns because it's Frosthaven, not Gloomhaven, but those are also useful tools for your arsenal as well. Also, about coordination, initiatives. One of the best ways, especially in a group, if you can coordinate it, like, hey, is someone going to open the door? Have the person open the door, go at a very, very early initiative. And then have everyone after that. Usually you want them to also go very late so the monsters can move closer, especially if they're going to like jump in. Like I think one of the more common moves is have the person at low initiative like do either a shield or maybe a heal, or so they can like open the door. Oh, I don't want that at all. That's bad. Jump out, just do a heal, and then watch the enemies move forward, and everyone going super late can then jump after. And the initiative weaving can actually be really big if you can say, hey, kick open the door, have the enemies move forward, and then have everyone go late. Just take as many turns as you can late, and then everyone drop their early initiatives the next round and jump on them. And hopefully, through that coordination, you'll have dropped 1, maybe 2 of them, so that you have fewer attacks during the enemy's chance to counterattack on the next turn. It's also why I generally prefer people to have a good initiative spread, because if you don't, like, well, I can't go late. I only have like earlies and mids. Mids are like one of the worst initiatives. Like if I see a card that says like initiative 89, I'm like, yeah, 55, I'm like, shoot me now. But there are some really good cards that have initiative 55 or something. So you deal with it and you just use other cards. That's why you play 2 cards, use 1 initiative. Sometimes you just deal. But like if you're like, well, I need to use these cards, one's 55, one's 65, and like be like, oh, I hate this so much, unless it's like, I don't know, there's some situation where it won't matter, but there's definitely a certain amount of initiative control, especially around opening doors, where I feel like it's initiative weaving is far more important on those critical turns, especially when you're opening a door. Now you have a full room full of enemies and you have to address it. Use all the tools at your disposal, the things that work. Hard crowd control, initiative control, all that other things goes so much more. But also keep in mind, also if you are able to move in on a door and use a good movement after, hit enemies and then be able to move out, because sometimes moving away is effectively a form of crowd control. And just one more added note, going into kicking open a door on a room and then playing a top melee attack is far riskier than bringing ranged attacks. Now, I'm not saying, oh no, don't do it. Probably shouldn't, but like if you have the ability to self-heal, self-retaliate, self-heal, or ranged attack, or invisibility, anything of that is generally more reliably going to result in a payoff than a melee attack. Now, of course, if you're like, hey, I'm going to kick open this door with a move 6, you'll probably reach an enemy. But, like, again, you're still gambling. But we're talking about the 90%, not 100%. Because you can never be 100% ready for any door. And that's because of Matthew G. Somers, or Marcel Sertechka, and sometimes Isaac. Just the sadists of the world. And in general, by the way, if you are about to open a door, if you don't have, like, an invisibility prepared, don't kick it open and then say, oh, I'm just going to long rest in the room now. In my head, that seems very obvious, but I've at least seen it done more than a few times that I'm like, okay, you do you. So there's a lot of ways that does it, but ultimately doors and people being surprised on what happens on the other side is definitely one of the more brutal things that happen in Gloomhaven, and it's more brutal in Frosthaven now that some of those tools are taken away, and you have to get just a little bit more creative. So I hope this helped. Doors are definitely them. Now, I actually do want to kind of do an overview of monsters sometime, so I didn't like be like, hey, this is the deadliest enemy. It is, but there's definitely some pretty brutal enemies in Frosthaven, and I do want to talk about them. I don't actually think the Algots are that bad, but there's definitely some brutal stuff in there, and I'm definitely not talking about Shrike Fiends, who just try to make your day miserable. Dear Shrike Fiends, you are awful. Sincerely, Alessandra. Are they worse than Night Demons though? Anyway, we'll talk about that in a video. Anyway, I will be doing more Frosthaven content, so if you want to hear that, like my rundown of the Frosthaven monsters, be sure to subscribe to get notified and hit that bell and whatnot. If you like this video and like you have your own breaching tactics that I didn't talk about, please leave a comment. I want to hear what you do differently. If this is something that screwed you over in the past, like, let me know, and I will be your therapist. I don't. Oh, I'm so sorry. But just comment. It helps. Thanks to all our Inox tier patrons. You guys are wonderful, and I really appreciate all of your support. I'm going to try to be sure to release every video early on Patreon. So if you do want early access to videos, be sure to join Patreon. Additionally, it does help for my upcoming surgery. So to help pay for that, I also have a GoFundMe. So I'm going to put that in the link if you just want to contribute to that directly. So thanks all of you for supporting the channel, and thanks all of you for watching.